Hello, and welcome to the Iron Maiden. My name is Abby, and I wanted to make a quick video today to cover the bans to CC from Vynnset's perspective, or I guess from my perspective as a Vynnset player. So first, I'll cover the bans. I'm only covering the classic constructed bans today. I won't be talking about Blitz because I don't care about Blitz, Living Legend because I don't know enough, and I won't be covering the Living Legend point change. So firstly, Count Your Blessings is banned. Previously this was only banned in blue, leaving red and yellow. Now all of the colors are banned. Germinate is banned, the Florian specialization. Scepter of Pain is banned, the weapon. And Bonds of Ancestry Red is unbanned. So I'll cover each of these one at a time. We're going to start with Count Your Blessings because it is a massive change to the format. Count Your Blessings gains so much life. Only with 6 of them, the decks that could play it were still quite strong. Obviously less strong than when they had all 9. But it is removing one of Fatigue's best tools at surviving. Especially in these types of decks like Vynnset, where you often have to pass to set up. When they gain that life and they effectively set up against you, it's really hard to kill them. So seeing this go is really helpful. It also helps because a lot of decks like Dorinthia or Jarl, you would never know if they were playing CYB or if they were playing something more proactive or if they were playing something in the middle. Maybe you Count Your Blessings in the sideboard. That was fairly common for those decks. So those decks used to have a problem with they would win in sideboarding, meaning that if you didn't bring the right cards, you could lose, and if you brought the cards for anti-Count Your Blessings, you could still lose to a proactive list. This is really good for Vynnset because she has 2 very different sideboard plans, so knowing what I'm trying to put in against these decks will be very good. It also means that Reaping Blade is no longer required. Lots of matchups recently have been requiring Reaping Blade, such as Guardians and sometimes Warriors I've been considering, because CYB is just so oppressive against this deck if you do not have Reaping Blade. So that's a pretty good ban for us. Scepter of Pain, however, is a bit frustrating. It makes Florian more tolerable because he will have to run a different weapon. If he's not running Scepter, he's almost certainly just going to be running Reaping Blade. Some people might go back to Dread Scythe, but he will have to run an attacking weapon. This means that he won't be able to stack nearly as easily because his weapon will break his rune chance. It also means that he can't do Channel the Millennium Tree tricks by amping Scepter of Pain, which was very strong. And it's just unlikely that Florian will be as dominant as he was this season. Unfortunately, Scepter of Pain was also a very good Vynnset card against Fatigue decks because you could filter bad hands without breaking your rune chance. So when you would draw 4 attacks, you could move along in your deck to find the good cards. I have some slides about that later, about how we might be able to replace it, but it's a little annoying generally. It is the right call. Florian shouldn't have this weapon. Banning Tree probably wouldn't have stopped the Fatigue Scepter Florian from existing, so I think Scepter might have been the right call here. Germinate is a big hit to Florian. It is his best weapon against slow matchups. He's losing one of his best cards in Germinate, as well as his best weapon for fatiguing, which is Scepter. This means that he has a lot less consistency. He has to play a worse blue card until the High Seas comes out because they promised a decent replacement. But he will have to play either a strong-ish 2-block Earth card probably, or a weaker 3-block Runeblade card or something like that. This should bring Florian representation down a lot from fairly high to back to what it was before Aurora Living Legend, or before Enigma Living Legend, maybe more accurately. This is also going to make Florian, like I said, more proactive. Germinate is a good way for Florian to win games by waiting until he can play it if he just keeps pitching it. But now he doesn't have that option. He has to actually win the game with blues instead of having the blues win those slow games for him. Bonds of Ancestry is only unbanned as a red. The blue and yellow are still gone. This is pretty good for Katsu. It really should revive the hero, which is great for Katsu fans. It makes Dishonor playable again. It was always kind of playable with the card that can choose any name. There's a few of those, but Bonds of Ancestry is really what it works with. This is maybe very good for Vynnset because Katsu is a very strong aggro deck, and that could push the meta to be faster. But it also could be not very relevant, could be more niche, so it doesn't matter too much for us. So now how do we fill that scepter-shaped hole? We need a card that can filter our hand, so preferably paying at least 2 resources without breaking rune chance, and we really want one that we can use several times a game. So for example, Crown of Dichotomy up in the top left lets you pay 1 to put an attack action and a non-attack action on the top of your deck. This is pretty cool. It filters your current hand. It sets up next turn to get 2 specific cards, and it can get a strong attack and a go again, or a strong attack and something to make rune chance. Could even get a blue attack and a good card so you can pay for things. It's a pretty cool card. It maybe should have seen play in the Florian meta, but I'm not sure that it's good enough for now. Grasp of the Arknight is an older Vynnset card. It does say pay to create a rune chant, and it has Battle Worn 2, which is all very, very strong. But of course, it gets more expensive for every rune chant you have, which means in Vynnset it always costs 3, because we always make a rune chant every turn. So this is fairly annoying. You would be at minimum paying 3 reds usually in order to filter, which is maybe good because it is your entire hand other than the one you have to banish, but also it means that on lots of hands, for example, if you have 2 rune chants and 3 reds, you just cannot activate Grasp. So I think that one's kind of a no. Another annoying thing is it takes Vexing Quillhand's spot, and that card is very important. Finally, in the bottom right corner, Annals of Sutcliffe. This is probably the worst Runeblade weapon ever made, but funnily enough, it could be our answer. I can't decide if this card is amazing or atrocious. It probably is atrocious, but I'm interested in it. You pay 3 to draw a card, and then if you have pitched an attack and a non-attack in order to activate that ability, you create a rune chant. So really what it does is says pay 3, draw a card, which can filter all 3 cards in your hand, and it gives you a new card which you put in arsenal generally. So for example, you could banish an attack, pitch 3 more attacks, and gamble on getting something good like a go again source to put in your arsenal. I'll be testing with Annals of Sutcliffe. If this card was a one-handed weapon, it would be amazing, but we'll see. And finally, I have some meta concerns with this ban. The meta could become hyper-aggressive with high Cs. For example, Marlin is supposed to be very, very strong. People have been testing her already. The new mech is likely to be very aggressive like the others. And even the Pirate Necromancer Gravy can push down these slower, fatiguing decks with his allies, possibly. We don't know if he's going to be very illusionist-like yet, but it seems like he probably will be good against decks that can only attack once a turn, which will hopefully push down these fatiguing piles. If that isn't the case, we will end up with a D-react heavy meta, I believe. We haven't got an illusionist in the same sense, Prism doesn't really cut the mustard against these sort of fatigue decks in a lot of ways. And without a stacking deck like Florian being prevalent, I think lots of decks will be running the 0-4 defense reactions, Rootbound Carapace, other in-class options. So we have to be a little bit careful with this meta. Vynnset can obviously take advantage of hyper-aggression. She can also take advantage of hyper-defensiveness by stacking, but you have to know what your opponent is doing. So keep an eye on the meta, see if it's going to be hyper-aggressive, hyper-defensive. Hopefully it doesn't end up sort of in the middle like it has been. I would like it to be pushing one way or the other. And that's the end of this video today. If you'd like to check out my Flesh and Blood comics, they are there on the left. You can find me on Twitter, or you can join the Discord in the description below. If you'd like to leave a comment, I'll always answer your comments. Or give this video a like is awesome too. Have a great day and be good.